wraps up our housekeeping items. So I'm going to go ahead and present our speaker today, Jessica Cahill. She is TCNJ class of 2008. She graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Health and Exercise Science, and she went on to Kansas State University in 2012 and graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Dietetics. She is a registered dietitian and a certified strength and conditioning coach. Jess co-founded her business in 2018, Success by Lifestyle. It is a nutritional consulting firm based on wellness and health change for the individual. And they approach that in a overall wellness overall lifestyle approach versus fad diets, pills, magic potions, things of that nature. They really try to work with the individual to incorporate an individual plan based knowledge, science, and overall lifestyle change to get optimum results for the individual. In addition to running the business Success by Lifestyle, Jess is also a part-time dietitian, inpatient clinical dietitian for Virtua Health, and she is also a per diem dietitian for Jefferson Health Home Care, both located in South Jersey. And if that's not enough on her plate, she is also a wife and mother, 2-year-old child, and they reside in South Jersey. I think I covered most of Jess's background. She's quite well versed in all of this nutritional and wellness. So I will turn it over to her to do her presentation on building a better immune system. Thanks, Jess.
Thanks, Pam. What a great intro. And thanks for everybody for taking time to be with us today. I think this will be a nice breath of fresh air for you in the midst of working from home or being a caregiver from home in these crazy times. So I'm going to share my screen with the presentation. I won't be able to see you guys, so excuse me, because I won't be able to respond to your faces for those of you who have your videos on. And we're going to do a bunch of question and answering at the end, and then at that point my video. Okay. Shared desktop. And great. All right. So like Pam said, my practice is titled Success by Lifestyle. And the reasoning for that is we really promote the whole foundation of healthy living and not just food science. Today we are talking about building the immune system. So let's dive in a little bit with some background information about what the immune system is. So our body actually has 11 systems. They all work together in harmony, but the digestive system and the immune system work hand in hand very closely to keep our body functioning properly. When we have malnutrition, it causes a lot of things to break down in our body, and one of the main things is immune function. So if you've ever been not eating well and under stress, you might notice that your cuts aren't healing quickly, your bruises aren't healing quickly, things like that is a good example. Some of you may have heard of the term leaky gut, and this is becoming a more popular term in medicine these days. And really that is just that breakdown of the lining of our gut, which is supposed to protect our body from things flowing through our GI system that shouldn't be getting into our blood and absorbed into our body. So that is leaky gut. How do we prevent that? Well, we're going to talk about that today, because preventing leaky gut is really key to helping keep your immune system strong. So what are we going to work on? A lot of foundational things, but also getting balanced nutrition and making sure we're getting our vitamins, minerals, and protein that we need to be strong and healthy. And then something else I'd like to mention as part of the immune system is some foundational new science that came out in the last decade with really understanding the gut and this axis that happens between the gut and the brain. So our gastrointestinal system starts in your mouth and goes all the way to the other end. And we know that somewhere below our stomach in that small intestine, there's something that we call the second brain. Now, the human body is about 23,000 genes and 9 million different types of human bacteria. There's hundreds of trillions of microorganisms that are not human in our body. So if you do this, the calculations, we're only about 10% human when you weigh us out between all the bacteria in our gastrointestinal system and then what our body cells are actually made of. So it's pretty powerful what this microbiome and all these bacteria do for our body. And when we eat healthy and we sleep well and we really take care of ourselves, we keep that microbiome happy and healthy. And that's what keeps our immune system happy and healthy. So enough of the science, which I love, and let's dive into what causes illness. So some of these things are obvious: lack of sleep, an increased amount of stress, maybe some inadequate exercise, obesity, poor nutrition, hygiene, and then some people are genetically predisposed to illnesses. The good news is there is a lot of stuff that we can do about this to offset some of these things in our lives. Now, the reason I'm going to go into stuff that is not nutrition first is because healthy living is more than just nutrition, right? So if you don't get enough sleep, you are at increased risk for heart disease. And the reason for that is because we build up inflammation in our body when we're not sleeping properly. And we're going to talk more about that. Loneliness and social isolation are linked to decline in physical and mental health. So this has been on the platform in healthy living because we've noticed that people are doing a lot more social media and a lot less socializing in person. And obviously this has gotten even a lot worse now that we are being forced into social isolation. So it's really important as we come out of this, time that we reconnect with loved ones and spend a lot of time one-on-one with people to pull ourselves out of, the funk that you can get into. Okay, daily gratitude practice is shown to help make us more productive. This can be making more positive eating choices or more exercise. A lot of times just writing something down on paper and getting it out of your brain onto paper is a nice way to clear your mind, and then you can reflect on those things. And then meditation has been around forever. It is becoming more popular again. This can actually rebuild gray matter in the brain. It improves memory, your empathy, your sense of self, and overall strengthens your body because you've strengthened your mind. Okay, so the first foundation we're going to talk about is the benefits of exercise. So this is not groundbreaking information here, guys. It's just a good reminder of how it's more than just looking good. So, you see bodybuilders and people out there, and yeah, it's wonderful when you work hard and you're proud of what your body looks like. But more importantly, this is going to boost your mood. It's a way to reduce stress. It's helping to maintain your bone density. It's helping to build your muscle mass. You're going to have increased energy overall, mostly because you're going to be sleeping better. And then you're also reducing your risk for disease. So when you think of long-term goals, we want to make sure that when we're building goals, we're saying, I'm going to exercise because I want to be strong when I'm 60, or I want to avoid diabetes that runs in my family, not just I want a flat stomach, right? All right, and here's some more reasons to sweat. So I love the fact that you can detox heavy metals out of your body when you're sweating. You can boost your muscle recovery and boost circulation by using, maybe sauna, steam room anytime you sweat. So maybe from exercise or in a steam room, your body actually releases this dermacidin. Dermacidin is amazing. So it is a antimicrobial peptide that's secreted by the sweat glands, and it attacks bacteria on your skin. So we kind of actually secrete our own little hand sanitizer. Would you believe that? It does help clear your skin. And again, exercise and just sweating in general is going to help boost your mood and release endorphins. Okay, so obviously it's important to sleep. I already mentioned that if your body is not getting adequate sleep, your inflammation is raised in your body. Okay, so here are some ways to improve your sleep. So if we want a stronger immune system, we want to get at least 8 hours of sleep at night. You can make sure that you're cutting down ambient light at least an hour before bed. It's great. A lot of people working from home have purchased the blue blocking glasses, and you can wear them if you need to be in front of the screen in the evening. This will help lower the blue light that's getting in through your eyes to your brain and allow you to kind of start winding down. Meditation and rituals are so powerful. For all of you out there that remember when you were a kid or have kids, you know, how you would kind of get a bath and then you'd go upstairs and you'd read a book. You know, that ritual of doing things before bed really helps your body wind down, get to sleep faster, and get more good start to your evening. Tracking sleep on the device can be really powerful. I know my friend Caitlin, who's on right now, she wears her Fitbit and she can tell when she's had a good night of sleep or bad night of sleep and what a difference it makes when she's able to see how soundly she slept. So maybe you still got 8 hours of sleep, but on some nights you're tossing and turning, other nights you're getting really sound, a lot of REM sleep. It's really important to fast before bed, and I'm gonna dive into this fasting in the later slides when we're in the nutrition section. But at least 90 minutes for bed, we wanna cut out what we're eating. You can always have an herbal tea, you know, something without calories. But the reason for this is it takes a lot of energy for our body to digest food. So make sure you cut out that food about 90 minutes before bed, and then anything you really do eat in that maybe 2 hours before bed is lighter, so you have time to digest it. And we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna talk about this a little bit more, but it's really important to make sure your tummy is empty when you're going to sleep, because your body's gonna devote all that blood flow and energy to repairing and rebuilding. Okay, I'm sure you guys have heard of melatonin. They make it in all kinds of forms. You can even supplement it for children in gummies. If you have issues with stress or poor nutrition for any reason, you could be deficient in melatonin, and this could be something you simply add that really helps get you to bed earlier, more soundly, more easily. Your cortisol is supposed to peak in the morning and then gently decrease. And then melatonin really comes in at night to help get your body into sound sleep. So if you're missing that, it can make sleep really difficult. And then aromatherapy. And as a holistic health practitioner, I'm a huge fan of trying something like aromatherapy before I am of trying some kind of sleep aid. So you can get a lavender essential oil, make your own little aromatherapy spray and spray that either on your pillow at night or even drip some in your bathtub. And the body responds incredibly well to smells. So that might be something that is a nice trigger for you as part of your evening ritual to really help you get good quality sleep. Okay, stress reduction. So exercise, I've been beating that into this presentation, how important exercise is. Breathing practice, and we actually are going to practice some breathing shortly. Yoga or stretching can be a great way to help bring stress down. Yoga, especially like a more gentler yoga, where you're just taking deep breaths and moving through a slow flow. We mentioned the gratitude journals earlier. This can be a great way to kind of reflect on what's going on in life and step out of the busyness that's going on around you. And then I'm a huge fan of making to-do lists. So if you've got a lot of ideas and things bouncing around your head, maybe for work, family, you know, even fun stuff you want to do or house projects, get a notebook or an app in your phone and get the stuff out of your head and onto paper or in your app. And this way you can kind of free your mind up and reduce some stress. Other things that are really great for stress reduction are laughing, listening to music. For me, I love cooking. That's a great stress reducer until I see the pile of dishes I've built up for myself. But anytime we're under stress, because we're animals, we have this fight-flight response, right? So that raises your cortisol. So if you're exercising or you're doing something, you know, emotional and it's quick, it's okay to have a short spike in cortisol. What happens in the world we live in is we're under chronic stress. And when you're stressed, your cortisol levels are high and it's chronic, it actually depletes the lymphocytes in our immune system. And those white blood cells are what we need to fight infection. So when you look at the research and it shows people under chronic stress, you know, people who are dealing with sick family members or really intense responsibility at work, you know, financial issues, you know, there's all kinds of stuff. You know, some people have all three of those things going on at one time. You might not be showing it on your face or something like that, but you might notice that, again, difficulty healing, maybe some hair loss, or, you know, your nails are thinner. You know, there's a lot of ways that our body expresses damage. And it's talking to you, it's telling you that your stress is too high. All right. Another example is if you've ever had kind of butterflies in your stomach or any digestive issues, that can definitely be a buildup of stress from high cortisol. So let's talk about meditation. Meditation is really important. It doesn't have to be fancy or formal, but the key here is we really want to understand that you are not your thoughts, you just observe them. So, you know, we have these thoughts that flow in and out of our minds all day long, especially with social media around us. You post something and you're like, oh my gosh, what do people think of me? You know, we really have to turn that off. The reality is people think about you a lot less than you think they do. And it's really important for your mental health to dictate the way you live and to make a shift in your mindset so you can kind of control some of these thoughts and stress. And by controlling, I don't mean trying to stop them. I mean just letting them flow through and really focusing on what's important. So guided meditation can be really helpful, especially if you're a beginner. Two of my favorite apps out there are Headspace and the Calm app. Highly recommend if you don't have them, you download one of those today, okay, and get started. They even have great sections on helping you sleep. So a not guided meditation, you could work in even as part of exercise or your morning rituals. And this is just really simple and very calming. You just sit and let your mind flow. Maybe you set a 10-minute timer or 5-minute timer. And this is really powerful for your mind. I do recommend if you start out with the guided and then go to the not guided. All right, so in the bottom at the green, you'll see the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So as I mentioned earlier, we have that fight or flight response. That is part of your sympathetic nervous system, okay? So it's okay to be that once in a while. It's a really important part of us for our ability to keep ourselves safe and strong and healthy. But we also want to get to the other side of that parasympathetic side where we're resting and digesting. And if you actually live in, you know, one of these high stress levels, it can be okay as long as you're mindful of it and you steer your body towards this parasympathetic system, you know, as needed. So one of the best ways to do this, and I know Pam that you practice this as well, is by doing something called 4-7-8 breathing. So I know you guys can't see me and I can't see you at this time, but I'd love to just do this with you guys. We're gonna go through it twice. It takes less than a minute. But basically you are going to breathe in for 4 seconds. We are gonna hold it for 7 seconds, and then you let it out extra slow. So you're gonna let it out for 8 seconds. And what this does is it activates digestion. It helps with hormone production, so it can help balance out your hormones. And it's really activating that rest and digest mode, which is really powerful. I highly recommend this to my clients in the morning, before lunch, and either before dinner or before bed. So ideally 3 times a day. So let's do it together. We're gonna start with the in for 4, and we're gonna hold it for 7, and then out for 8. Okay, in, hold, and out. One more, in, hold, then out. And I don't know about you guys, you can let us know after the presentation, but how does that feel? Feels good. All right. So let's talk about this environmental aspect for a second, because we are in a crazy world right now where everybody's running around with masks and gloves on and trying to avoid the coronavirus. And there's a lot of environmental factors that play in that sometimes we really don't think about until something like this is going on. So one thing I do recommend is considering the air in your home or your work environment. There's a lot of great tools out there for filtering, sanitizing air. Wherever you spend most of your time, So maybe this is your office and your bedroom. You can actually get mini air filter sanitizers, but they are able to filter out quite an amazing amount of things. So you can actually filter out the mold, dust, dander, and odors that come along with maybe an older home or a home that's had animals in it. You can actually filter out viruses and allergens, and then volatile organic compounds that are coming from the air, maybe coming out of man-made products, different chemicals that are floating around in the air. Okay. And then the second thing is water. So there's great calculators out there where you can go and plug in your weight, either pounds or kilograms, and find out how much water you need in a day. So you definitely want to meet those needs every day. The second thing is to think about where your water is coming from. So a lot of towns, you can go right on your town website and see what the concentration is of different chemicals like fluoride. But just know that everything that we put in our water system, so like people flush medications down the toilet and things like that, those pharmaceuticals and these different chemicals do get into our water system, and they're not always able to be filtered out before they come back through our tap. So consider getting either a reverse osmosis and carbon water filtration system or some kind of countertop filter system in order to make sure that you're getting all your water and it's a good quality. And the fluoride is a big debate out there. Since the beginning of dentistry, they've noted that fluoride helps prevent cavities in your teeth. But we also know that fluoride is a neurotoxin. So most people who are health professionals and kind of have the same mindset I do, embracing holistic, healthy, functional medicine, but also understanding, the science and modern medicine, consider the same aspect. You shouldn't be drinking fluoride every day, but we certainly want to be using fluoride on our teeth. So it's okay to brush and spit a fluoride toothpaste, but we certainly don't want to be drinking high levels of it in our water. So that's definitely something to manage, and maybe not something you're going to change tomorrow, but something you put on your to-do list for the future. Okay, now we're going to dive into the nutrition part. Obviously, this is my comfort zone. I'm going to try to give you guys a little bit more science behind some of this stuff, most importantly, because I want you to understand the why I'm recommending these things. And you will see that it's a lot simpler, hopefully, than you think, as far as rounding out and balancing your diet. So therapeutic nutrition is all about including more healthy foods and cutting out the junk. So we want to make sure we're getting our healthy fats, a lot of fiber, phytonutrients, and antioxidant foods. Phytonutrients have chemical compounds that come from plants, and these are known to be beneficial to humans, okay? Actually, plants have all kinds of phytonutrients that protect them as well. We just get the benefit from them when we eat them. And then antioxidants are actually different. So antioxidants are something that is present in a food that have a special oxidizing ability. So it gets rid of free radicals that are floating around in our body. These free radicals are unstable atoms that can cause damage to our system. So there's a lot of research on this as far as what free radicals do. There's a strong belief that they are related to the development of cancer. So it's really important to make sure we're including these foods, but certainly not to go crazy taking elixirs and supplements and all kinds of crazy stuff that they claim to be packed with antioxidants. Because just as, there is such thing as too much of a good thing. So if you overload your symptom with, say, a gallon of acai juice, your body has to process that, and that can probably cause just as much stress as if you were deficient in, a certain antioxidant. So it's important to get our phytonutrients and antioxidants, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more in detail. And then this part, just pointing out some of the things we want to limit. So obviously foods that have been processed and refined, added sugars to them, things that have a lot of added sodium. A lot of foods on the shelf will have sodium that naturally occurs in it, sodium that's been added for flavor, and then sodium that is added for preservation. So we want to make sure that if you are using these foods, something that's been processed, it's not the end of the world, but add it to a meal where there's a lot of fresh components. So maybe you use canned products in a big thing of chili and a lot of the ingredients are fresh, you know, things like that are great. And then refined stripped grains. So we want to stay away from white flours and white rice and be getting the foods that are more in their whole natural state, like a wild rice, a whole grain, things like that. Okay. So here are sources of some of these foods I'm talking about. And what you'll see here is I haven't excluded anything. We have a nice variety of vegetables, a nice variety of fruit. We have starchy carbohydrate corn, lots of berries, leafy greens. We have some turkey, some fish, some eggs. So really you want a nice variety of all different kinds of foods throughout the day. Okay, so jumping back to the phytonutrients a little bit. Phytonutrients, like I mentioned, have those chemical compounds that have benefits to humans. They do come from plant-based sources. So we need to get a lot of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and beans. This image here, obviously beautiful salad. If you're not the kind of person that likes veggies in the morning, you can do something so simple as to add a little spinach or salsa to your eggs. But really lunchtime, I find lunch and dinner is where people get the most of their vegetables. So if you're doing 2 to 3 servings at dinner and maybe 1 to 2 servings at lunch, just make sure that all of those are different types of fruits and veggies. So you're getting a nice variety. The brightly colored and strongly flavored vegetables and fruits will have the highest phytonutrient content. And we certainly, as I mentioned before, want to stick to the food sources of these. So all foods have special, you know, ingredients in them that are powerful for our body. And they have varying levels of vitamins and minerals and these phytonutrients. So it's important to get variety and, you know, mostly get them from foods and avoid the need to take lots of supplements. Okay, so along with it, I like to always discuss, because this is a big question I get from my clients, is should I be eating mostly raw? So fruits and vegetables are susceptible to change in their nutrient content when they're cooked. But the good news is this goes both ways. So it's not about just being raw, but it's about knowing how it changes and, you know, modifying your meals and ways that you cook and eat things so that you're getting both. So if you are cooking vegetables, keep the cooking time to about 5 minutes, use moderate heat, try to chop things right before you eat them because that's going to have the max amount of these enzymes there that are important, and then try to alternate eating raw and cooked things. Cooking does make some phytonutrients and vitamins and minerals easier to absorb. So for example, you can absorb more of the carotenoid lycopene from spaghetti sauce than you can from raw tomatoes. And you can get more isothiocyanates from chopping broccoli and other cruciferous vegetables than you do is when you eat it in large whole chunks. Another good example is spinach. So you always want to do a nice variety of cooked and raw spinach. The reason being, raw spinach, you are able to get more of the water-soluble vitamins because it hasn't been seeped out when it's cooked. But cooked spinach, you're actually be able to get more of the iron because when you cook it, it breaks down some of its binding power. And so it's easier for our body to get that iron out of it. Okay, so here's something really interesting that's obviously something I've been doing a lot more research with now that we are in a pandemic. So people have a lot of questions about how I can put stuff in my body that's going to help fight a virus. And when you think of these concepts, you know, this is Chinese medicine, this is ancient herbalism that goes back thousands and thousands of years. So this is stuff that we're finding out some of the details about, but these concepts, this knowledge has been around forever, and it's amazing. So one of the things that is really powerful is adding herbs and spices to your foods. Oregano, sage, basil, lemon balm, peppermint, rosemary, echinacea, licorice, ginger, ginseng, dandelion, fennel, garlic. So some of these things you probably have them in your cabinets right now or in your pantry. Super easy to throw some garlic and sage and basil, you know, into some sauce, oregano, things like that. But echinacea is something that you'll usually find in a tea or a supplement. So one of the, I think the best things to do with some of these more oddball herbs is to have them in a tea. It's a great way to get a powerful dose of an herb into your system without having to figure out how to cook with it. Okay. Just a caution, I do support, supplements in some situations, but there is very, very little research and investigation into not only the quality, but the safety of supplements, especially from other countries. So it's really important if you are going out and buying, some kind of herbal supplement for immune boosting, or some kind of elixir or tincture, that you're using a product that has been third party identified as safe, as well as for the ingredients that they claim to be in it. Okay, so fermented foods are amazing. They are rich in probiotics. I mentioned earlier, your digestive system has a really powerful way of protecting our body, and we need to feed it, right? So we have prebiotics, or those healthy bacteria, and the probiotics are what we feed that bacteria. It's naturally occurring in a lot of foods, and when you ferment foods, that level just goes up and up and up. So things like kimchi, sauerkraut, even coffee and beer and chocolate, they all are fermented and they're going to have probiotics there. Powerful beverages like kombucha will also have probiotics, and I'm a huge, huge fan of broths and soups, because that's a great way to get a lot of nutrients just by sipping on something, okay? Foods rich in vitamin C will also boost your immune system and help fight viruses, but you don't want to just jump to drink in an emergency. Think about oranges, pineapple, Brussels, cauliflower, bell peppers, broccoli. There is an important dose of vitamin C that you want to meet or exceed to help support your immune system. And if you're under a lot of stress, you can certainly take a vitamin C tablet on top of eating these foods. But supplements can never truly replace the importance of eating these whole foods, because there are things in foods that are not going to be in a pill, a powder, or a liquid. Okay. Mushrooms. So a lot of people don't like mushrooms, but hopefully they're going to be willing to try them more when they understand how powerful they are in supporting your immune system. They are rich in B vitamins, zinc, and selenium, which are all super important for supporting immunity and digestion. And then proteins and healthy fats. So this doesn't have to be just animal proteins, it's all proteins, but sometimes it's a little easier to get some of these sources from animal proteins, but they are very high in B vitamins and vitamin D, which are the two that most people are deficient in. So if you're going for any kind of annual blood work, or you're just really looking to do a wellness check-in and you want to get some blood work done, definitely ask to get your vitamin D checked. The therapeutic level, according to the most labs, is about 32, but most health providers that have knowledge of the immune system and function will like to see that number up at least near 50, even strive for 80 or 90. So get your vitamin D checked. It's sometimes hard to get that from just foods and the sun, since we wear sunblock. So it doesn't hurt to supplement with a good quality vitamin D when needed. Okay, so I did mention we're going to jump into fasting. So some changes that occur in your body when you're fasting at nighttime, so that nocturnal fasting, is that level of growth hormone increases in your body. So that is really supporting rebuilding, strengthening your muscles, and literally keeping you youthful. Insulin sensitivity improves, so we're helping prevent any kind of prediabetes, especially if you have something that runs in your family, by having good blood glucose regulation. And then this is what I mentioned earlier, your cells will initiate the repair process. So when your body's not working on digestion is a huge cumbersome process for a body, it's able to redirect that blood flow, all that oxygen, all those nutrients are pushed out to the tips of our toes, to our eyes, to our brain, all these muscles that we've worked throughout the day, and they're able to rebuild, repair. They look for these cancer cells and all these junk floating around our body, and they move it out of our body, break it down, get it into our elimination system and out. And then you get changes to function of genes. So we know that our genes are part of our story, but they certainly don't write every page. So it's important to, look back at your family history. You can even get some neat genetic testing and see what you're genetically predisposed to. But know that it's really powerful to be able to support your body, get the sleep, exercise, and do all these important things. And you can have your genes express in the best way possible as opposed to in the worst way possible. Okay, and protect against early disease. So ideally our fasting is going to be from about 8 p.m. to 8 in the morning, and that gives you that minimum of 12 hours. During that time, all these activities are going on and really optimizing your body. Now, some people will do intermittent fasting. So they'll actually skip breakfast most days, and they'll start their day by breaking their fast around lunchtime. And what this does is it opens up that window. So instead of just 12 hours, they might creep into 16 hours or so. And they're really increasing the time where they can be making this healing and improvement to their body. Works great for some people. They just feel better this way. Other people do not, because maybe they haven't eaten that way before and their body is going to take longer to adapt to it, or it's just not for their system. It's one of the neat things about us is we are all special and different, and not everybody responds well to some neat things like this. Okay. So interesting topic, especially in these crazy times, would be how to be safe with food. So how to wash your produce. So things that you bring home from the market or any kind of farmer's market or something, you can fill your sink with 4 tablespoons of baking soda and some water and soak it for about 5 minutes, and then kind of either rub it with a rag or scrub it depending on how delicate the food is. And this will help remove pesticides, dirt, any kind of, bacteria or things that could be hanging on the surface. So these are, great for potatoes and things that have a skin to it. If it's something really delicate like berries and spinach, you would want to wait, keep that in your fridge, and then just clean that off like right before you're about to use it, because otherwise it'll start to break down the food. Okay, and there's great guides for that online if you want more information on how to clean and wash your produce. But you definitely don't want to use soap on it because it's very porous and it will absorb. The Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen is one of my favorite things to share with people who are jumping into really prepping and cooking more at home. So the Dirty Dozen is a list of 12 foods with the highest level of pesticides. The EWG is the Environmental Working Group. They are an amazing resource for everything in regards to products. So everything from skincare to tomatoes. And you can go on, this list is updated yearly. So there is a 2020 guide out. I just couldn't find a nice image of it. So that's why we're looking at 2018. But you'll see the top of the list for the Dirty Dozen is usually strawberries and leafy greens. And that's just because these are a very high conventionally produced product, and they have very porous, thin, delicate skin. Okay, Clean 15 is the opposite. So these are the foods that have the lowest level of pesticides after production. So the Dirty Dozen, you want to look for organic, ideally or local organic, and then, or maybe try growing them in your own yard. And then the Clean 15 are safe to buy conventional. So your avocados, your corn, your cabbages, all these things have some outer layer that you're peeling off and you're not eating. So love those. You can go on and look up the EWG's 2020 list. And then shopping safe. So ideally we're shopping the outside of the market. We're getting our fresh fruits and veggies. We're getting our eggs, all these things that are outside. When you come home, anything that's in a package, box, things like that, that you can leave maybe in a corner in your dining room or in a safe pantry for a couple days, it's good to just leave it, because any virus that could potentially be on there isn't going to survive. Obviously, you're washing your hands when you get home or after you unpack. And then anything that is in a container, like strawberries or something, you can repackage, nuts, beans, all those things you can repackage and throw out the packaging and then move them into the pantry or the refrigerator. The key really is washing your hands. So we don't want to be wearing gloves in the market, but you can definitely Wash your hands before, wash your hands after, wash your hands after putting stuff away. And then after all that hand washing, you definitely need some good lotion. All right, so it's a lot of information about healthy eating. If healthy eating brings you stress, let it go and try a new path to improve that day. And, Pam and I were talking, and one of the biggest things about this time is we want to boost our immune system. We want to do all these great things for our body, but if it's bringing you a ton of stress, it's not worth it, because we know stress is bad for our body. So maybe the concept of finding fresh food right now and meal prepping and cooking is just daunting, and it raises your blood pressure. So if that's the case, let it go. Focus on getting out for a walk, focus on getting to bed earlier, focus on, drinking a cup of that herbal tea that's been in your pantry for a year. Just doing what you can each day, and maybe setting some goals for the future. So in summary, we want to make sure that every day we are moving our body. This doesn't have to be stressful exercise. It can be as simple as, stretching, putting your feet in the dirt and, taking 5 minutes to stretch, maybe going for a walk. We want to sleep at least 8 hours. This is when your body is rebuilding, repairing, renewing. We want to get our stress level down. So you might be able to get your stress level down just by doing exercise and sleeping well. We want to maintain a healthy weight. We want to be mindful about our nutrition. We want to be following that proper hygiene, so hand washing, taking care of our mouth and teeth, because that is the gateway to our digestive system. We want to be hydrated, so find out how much fluids you need and meet that every day, and make sure you exceed it on the days that you are doing intense exercise. And then we want to fast for that minimum of 12 hours, because that's really the opportunity for our body to rebuild and repair and boost our immune system and keep it nice and strong. So thanks again, everybody, for your time today. I'm going to be hanging around for some questions. With this pandemic, the health insurance companies have opened up the telehealth realm. So I highly recommend calling the number on the back of your insurance card and finding out what your telehealth coverage is. There's a good chance that you would be able to come and do a free telehealth session with myself via Zoom or Skype, super simple, from your living room. If you do so and you're interested, go to successbylifestyle.com, fill out our questionnaire, and it will come to us, and then we will contact you as soon as possible. And there should be no copay or deductible at this time. So it could definitely be free to you. Okay, great, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Jess. That was great. I learned not only one new thing, but several new things. So thank you for sharing all that with us. All right, we'll open this up for some Q&A. And I did receive a question via the chat. And again, I'll encourage you all to do that, to submit your questions. If you hover down in the lower center of your screen, you'll see the chat icon, and you will open up a chat box, and you can submit your question that way, and I will share it with Jess. We also had a question come in yesterday via Instagram, so I'm going to start with that one. And that question was, should you track macros or try to incorporate all different food in your diet?
So the best thing to get started with is just getting a good variety of food, making sure you're checking all those boxes for fruits, a couple servings of fruit, 5 to 7 servings of veggies, your lean protein, those healthy fats, nuts and seeds, green leafies, all that important stuff. If you feel like you've done that and you really want to take it to the next level, you can certainly track macros. People who really get into it, it does get easier, just like anything else when you learn to do it. And there's some great tools out there. But I think that's most powerful for people who are training, working to either put on muscle, reduce fat, that kind of stuff. So for somebody just day-to-day looking to be healthy, I don't think there's any need to track macros.
All right, our next question is, what is the appropriate amount of protein to take in every day?
That's a great question. So as Americans, we live in a very protein-rich society. We actually, most of us, overeat protein. Especially we eat too much at one time. So you can go online and calculate in like a protein calculator for your activity level, how much you need in a day. The average is probably about 80 grams for a woman and 100 for a man. The most important thing is you could literally eat 80 grams of protein for breakfast, and your body can digest that, but it can't utilize it all, okay? Because it can't save it and use it all day long. After you've digested in a couple hours, that's got to move. So the best thing to do is break it up into increments of 20 to 30 grams and have, 3 or 4 meals throughout the day where you're spreading that protein out. For people who are trying to build muscle, gain weight, it's great to do that even like 25 grams 5 times a day and really break it out, because that's where you're going to get the most protein utilization.
Great, thank you. All right, I'm jumping to our chat box. Our first question is, do the things you covered prevent you from getting sick or help you recover more quickly?
Great question.
Earlier in the
it does both. So you boost your immune system, you are not only going to prevent yourself from getting sick, especially if you're following the hand hygiene and like all these great, using the air filters and like that kind of stuff. So you can really prevent yourself from getting sick. But if you do get sick, it's like when you're reading the statistics with the coronavirus, people who have a strong, healthy immune system and they get the easier strain of it, they might not even notice that they've had it. They might lose their taste for a couple days, or they might have sniffled for a couple days. They don't even know they had it. Whereas other people who are older or they're immune compromised and they get that same strain, the more mild strain, they might be down for weeks. And it's just because their body didn't get to reduce that viral load quickly enough before it really started to attack their system.
All right, we have a question about melatonin. Is it safe to take melatonin every night?
So that's a good question. A lot of people do. I wouldn't say that it's unsafe. I would just say that if you start a melatonin supplement, one of my favorite things is to remind people that supplements are a supplement. It's meant to help replace something short term. So if you start a melatonin supplement and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing, I'm sleeping like a baby, continue that every night, but let's work on the things that are going to help you sleep without that. So at the same time, let's address exercise. Let's address your eating. There's a lot of foods that are high in tryptophan, which converts to melatonin. So you might want to bump up those foods and then gradually wean yourself off the melatonin and see if you have that same effect just from improving your, living lifestyle.
All right, thank you. All right, next question. What are some good plant-based protein options for people who can't eat nuts?
Oh, okay. So whole grains are excellent. You just want to look and make sure that they're not processed in a factory where nuts are processed. Leafy greens, I love tofu. There's a lot of great options out there. One of the things that is amazing about the world we live in is Google. So a lot of times if I have a complicated patient who is, vegan, diabetic, has a nut allergy, I literally will go on Google and type healthy, vegan, diabetic, no peanut recipe. And sure enough, there's 100 ideas there for them. And then we can work through what their food preferences are and help them find some things to work into their rotation. There's also a lot, so as much as some processed foods are bad, there's some great processed options out there, like protein powders, for example, used to be this big mix of junk and you really didn't have many options. Now there's companies out there who make like just pea protein and that's all it is. So you can probably, look for some really clean products where the ingredient would just be pea protein or just hemp protein and use stuff like that in a soup or in a dip or in a side dish to bump up the protein without working too hard.
That's a great one. All right. Okay, for someone who is unfamiliar with kombucha tea, is there a suggested amount to drink per day or a good time of day to drink it?
Awesome question. So kombucha is definitely something that if you've never had it, you might not love the taste at first. It's very, very effervescent and bubbly, way more than like a soda. So I recommend if you